The late afternoon sun washed Nairobi in a golden hue, casting long shadows across the bustling city streets. In the heart of the University of Nairobi, the campus buzzed with students preparing for their final semester. Among them was Melissa, a quiet force of warmth and strength, with eyes that spoke volumes and a heart shaped by her love of poetry and dreams she'd long kept hidden between notebook pages. She wasn't the kind of girl who chased romance. Love to her was a delicate thing, something you nurtured gently, not rushed into. But sometimes love arrives like a monsoon, sudden, powerful, and impossible to ignore. It was during a student tech and arts expo that she met Alex. He was tall, lean, and wore confidence like a perfectly tailored shirt. His camera was always hanging from his neck, and he had a way of turning the mundane into moments worth remembering. He was in his final year of computer science, but his real passion lay in photography. That afternoon, he was capturing portraits for a project on modern African youth. When his lens met Melissa, he paused, not just to focus, but as if he had truly seen her. "You've got this look," he said, stepping closer. "Like your thoughts live in two different worlds." Melissa laughed. "That's because they do." That one exchange turned into hours of conversation, and before either of them knew it, they were sharing coffee in a small campus cafe, arguing about music, storytelling, and the future of African art. That afternoon became days, then weeks. They took long walks after classes, traded playlists, exchanged books. He'd photograph her in her quiet moments, reading by the fountain, laughing with friends, lost in her writing. Alex was everything Melissa didn't know she needed. He was spontaneous where she was cautious, bold where she was gentle. And yet, in their differences, they found harmony. After graduation, while many of their peers moved back to their hometowns or chased job offers abroad, Alex and Melissa stayed in Nairobi. He started freelancing in tech support and photography, while she landed a job at a local publishing house. They rented a modest apartment on Ngong Road, shared morning coffees and late-night dreams. There were struggles, yes. Money was tight and ambitions were high, but the love between them made everything seem possible. They made plans to travel, to build a creative studio, to one day raise a family that thrived on books, art, and laughter. But dreams have a way of being tested. One evening, as the rain tapped softly on their balcony, Alex came home holding an envelope. His expression was unreadable. "What's that?" Melissa asked, drying her hands. He handed it to her. It was a contract, a year-long job offer from a tech company in Germany. IP, international exposure. A foot into the world he had always wanted to enter. "I didn't think they'd actually pick me," he said, voice low. "I applied months ago, just to try." Melissa stared at the paper, then back at him. "When would you leave?" "End of next month." Silence hung between them, thick and heavy. "It's everything I've worked for," he said, taking her hands in his. "But it means leaving. For a while. Just a year." Her heart clenched, but she managed a nod. "We can make it work." And they tried. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Planning, packing, clinging to each moment like it was their last. Melissa helped him gather documents, even wrote part of his farewell speech for his team. They promised each other it was temporary, that this would only strengthen their bond. They'd video call, but visit when they could. On the day of his departure, the airport was a blur of noise and emotion. Melissa clung to him as tears slipped down her cheeks. "You promise you'll come back?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I promise," he said, pulling her in close. "You're home, Melissa. I'll always come back to you." He kissed her one last time and turned away. She watched until he disappeared through the security gate, her heart already missing him. First they kept the promise. Alex called every night. He'd send her photos from Berlin, snow-covered streets, the studio he worked in, new meals he tried. They'd talk about their days, laugh at silly things, make plans for what they'd do when he returned. But as the months passed, the calls became less frequent. First it was work. "Crazy deadlines," he'd say. Late meetings. Then came the time differences. "Let's talk tomorrow," he'd text. "I'm exhausted." Eventually, tomorrow became next week. Messages grew shorter. Phone calls colder. His responses still carried kindness, but lacked presence. Melissa felt it. The slow fading of his voice in her life. She tried not to panic. She reasoned with herself. He's just busy. He's adjusting. He still cares. So she reached out more. She sent long messages, asking how he was doing, sharing little moments from her day. She'd send pictures of their favorite spots in Nairobi, hoping to spark nostalgia. She left voicemails, gentle, emotional, always loving. Sometimes he replied. Voice note. Heart emoji. A thanks for checking in. But the warmth was distant, like he was speaking from behind a glass wall. Her friends noticed. They stopped asking about him when Melissa stopped bringing him up. At work, she buried herself in tasks. At home, the silence was deafening. She began to wonder if she had imagined the depth of what they shared. If love could really fade so easily, or if it had only ever existed in her own heart. One evening, she sat on their old balcony alone, clutching a sweater he had left behind. The scent had faded. The memories hadn't. She whispered into the quiet. "Where are you, Alex?" The night offered no reply. Melissa didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of a journey that would break her, rebuild her, and lead her to places her heart had never dared to go.